have managed to put together a wonderful collection of soulful stories of immigration. The host of this event is our organization, Archer. And Archer is a Romanian-American coalition with a mission to empower the members of diaspora to become active supporters and advocates of social justice and human rights in our communities. We have started after about 30 years after the revolution in Romania and in Eastern Europe, and inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, we felt the need to truly free ourselves and express disapproval of social and racial injustices. And we believe that this event truly supports our story. So we are happy to have today with us Roxana, who is also the executive director for Archer, Dominica Radulescu, which is also the editors, one of the editors of the book, Calvin Mao, who is a wonderful blog writer for Archer, and many of the authors who have contributed to this wonderful book. I have posted the bios for both Dominica and Roxana on Facebook. I'm not sure if you can see that.
They need to be posted in the chat. We are not seeing it in the chat because those of us here, we are on the Zoom.
All right, I will post them in the chat as well. Let's see. My message is too long. So I will post it a little shorter. All right. So I have posted the bio for Roxana, and I will shortly post a slightly shortened version for Dominica.
So you can watch. Oh, great. I couldn't see.
Oh, still too long. I will try again.
No, I'll do it. Don't do it, please.
Okay.
Karina, did you want to talk more?
I am. Should I introduce Dominica and Roxana in full, or should I just go into the questions?
I think we need to introduce them, or they can introduce themselves.
Yes, I think that is the best idea. So I will start with Roxana, and then Roxana will pass the baton. So Roxana is our wonderful executive director of Archer. She is responsible for many of the programs that we do, including book clubs and activities on promoting our events and hosting events. And she is also an accomplished writer. She has several books. She writes wonderful poetry, and she's now working full time in helping organizations with their mission after teaching college for a while. But right now she's helping organizations in their mission to improve their diversity, inclusion in their workforce and with others.
Thank you, Krina. And I was able to post Dominica's bio also in the chat for everybody to see. We're going to follow up and post these on Facebook as well under the event. Thank you so much. I think that you introduced me really wonderfully. I'm flattered. I'm really happy to be here. I happen to also be the executive director of Archer, but I'm here in a different capacity today as a co-editor of this wonderful anthology. I wanted, by way of introduction, perhaps to tell you a very interesting story. When I was writing my dissertation at Indiana University, a while ago, I discovered the wonderful novelistic work of Dominica Radulescu, browsing the immense library. And I was so in love with it that I decided that I needed to dedicate a chapter at least to that. I did that. And after a few years after, not too long, I actually got to meet Dominica at a conference in Bucharest. And there I got to hear her speak in a panel, and then she came to my panel and we connected, and I shared with her that I studied her novelistic work, and she was really excited, and this is how our collaboration started. I'm so grateful for your work, Dominica. Thank you for writing it. Otherwise, it would have never led me to you. And we have been really great collaborators. Dominica is just a wonderful partner to work with. Really dedicated to promoting awareness, particularly with regards to immigrant communities and the experiences immigrants and refugees go through. So I'm going to give it to you, Dominica, to tell us a little bit about yourself. You can see her bio in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk more about myself, but about Roxana and this collaboration. You can see my bio in the chat. It's a little too long there. But yes, I think the collaboration between Roxana and I has been sort of an artistic and intellectual marriage made in heaven. We collaborate we complement each other so well, and I could keep creating anthologies and books and projects with Roxana. I am very keen on collaborative creative projects with women artists, and this is a women-led project. And it's not that a collaboration with any woman artist would be so great. You know, it's so much matters on a personality and and affinities. And I can say that collaborating with Roxana has been truly enriching and so satisfying. We complement each other so well. Roxana is incredibly meticulous. Besides being a brilliant poet, she's meticulous editor. She's incredibly reliable. So yes, we work very well together, and we have very strong literary, artistic, emotional affinities. We are working mothers, and that is also a dimension that is seen in the book. So enough about this. I think the richness of the collaboration can be seen in the book. Yeah, I think we're ready to start to delve into the questions and the substance of this wonderful project that you have made it possible.
Okay. Dominica and Roxana, first question for you. What are the origins of this? Where did it come from? What was the original idea?
Do you want to take that, Roxana, and then I say, or you, should I?
Go ahead, Dominica. You speak so beautifully. I can listen all day.
Well, one of the intersections between our work and our existential arcs has been that of being Romanian immigrants in the diasporas in the United States, and being creative artists and academics. So when we met in Bucharest, we immediately connected very strongly on that platform of our Romanian immigrant experience in the United States. And we're talking about immigrant literature and immigrant art, and realized that actually there are millions of zillions of anthologies of just about any topic out there, but that there aren't many collections of works by and about immigrant artists across literary genres and across artistic media and forms of expression. So that's how it started, really, us walking around the Bulevardul Magheru in Bucharest, and then continuing that discussion on after we both returned to our respective homes in the United States. And this is how Voices on the Move, our first collection, originated. That Voices on the Move, an anthology by and about refugees, also beautiful cover by Florinda Ruiz, who is a Spanish photographer, artist, academic, so also an immigrant and expat in the United States. We felt that it was needed to have this kind of authenticity, to not just have works about immigrant and displacement and about immigrant experiences and exile, but to actually gather them from people who have lived these experiences or have worked directly with immigrants. We have not 100% of our contributors are actual immigrants, but if they're not, they have worked directly with in context of supporting, helping, collaborating with other refugees and immigrants. And then the Voices on the Move was published during the pandemic. It didn't really have much of a book launch, except for a couple of these virtual book launches, but nothing in person. And the world, as you remember, has quieted down. There wasn't much going on. So it was left a little bit in the shadows. And then while we were in the pandemic, we realized, well, again, immigrant experiences are diverse. They vary and they are different from non-immigrant people's experiences. So why don't we take this further and see how people and persons that are displaced, that are refugees or migrants not just in the United States, across the world, how they have experienced the pandemic. And of course, there is an added layer of difficulty, of obstacles, of suffering, but also maybe also of enlightenment and realizations. So this is how the second collection started. And we got to work on that during the pandemic, post-pandemic, and now you have the collection.
Yeah, and if I can add to what Dominica said here, to be completely transparent, really the way we started thinking about this project, the two anthologies together, is from a discussion about home. Do you remember that, Dominica? Yes. At this very conference, I think a question was asked of the panelists in the panel that Dominica was participating in, and I was in the audience. And the question was, what is the return home like? So, people contributed, the panelists shared their insight, people from the audience shared their insight. And when we got together and we were walking down this boulevard in Bucharest, we started talking about this idea of home. And you'll see that, again, something that Dominica, as a writer, a playwright, and a novelist, continues to really deeply investigate, this idea of being able to live in parallel spaces of equal importance, but also being able to continuously enter and exit in the realm of the imagination, right, from these territories. So I'll stop here.
Dominica, you said something very interesting. You said that the richness of the relationship or the collaboration you have with Roxana is actually evident in the book. Could you say more about that?
Well, for instance, the way we have gathered all the contributions, and we have so immediately connected with them and agreed on everything, what to include, because we did have a lot of submissions, and we set out, we launched a general national call for submissions, as well as reaching out to people that we knew of or that we knew, but we wanted to open it to as many artists as possible. And though, for instance, though what is maybe even not seen, what is seen and what is not seen. What is not seen is that what you have here is the result of our culling through many submissions and choosing them and choosing the absolute best. And we generally, most often, I would say 90% of the times, we do agree on what should go and what shouldn't, and on the quality of the work, because the most important criteria is that of the quality of the work and its relevance for the theme. Then the way we write the introduction, we actually forgot, I don't know if you see it, but we have forgotten to put our names at the end of our introduction, but we entirely co-wrote that introduction. And this introduction is fully co-written, equally co-written by us, and as is the introduction to Voices on the Move. And what can be seen there is that it's almost like the same pen, that our styles merged. And I challenge any of you to see which sentences are mine and which are Roxana's, but it is truly like an artistic copulation, so to speak.
It is so easy to write with Dominika because, one would start with a paragraph and the second would come up with the next so seamlessly that it's like reading each other's mind. And I really think it comes from, again, a couple of common experiences, separated through time and space, if you will, but the likeliness, the similarity of sharing or struggling with gender roles, both in the sphere of the private life as well as in academia, merging or juggling the two sort of like important jobs in our lives, as that of a mother, that of a writer, together. And how those two roles have sort of like influenced the choices that we have made. And, intimately, there are many points in our contributions, specifically our prose contributions, that you see this overlay very much.
And speaking of working mothers, look at that.
Annie has brought a guest.
Avner, the lovely Avner.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm sorry I
Hi.
couldn't this down because we heard Abner. We could he's very noisy.
It's great to have Avner here. Thank you.
Roxana, how is this COVID related? How does COVID affect the theme for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want Dominika to also answer this question because her answer is also very pertinent. But for me, what really had started or had me think about this project is I became a mother about 2 or 3 months before the pandemic hit. And because of circumstances related to the pandemic and our, family choices, I stayed at home the first year with my son Milan, who is about ready to turn 4 in 2 weeks. So in a week, actually. And it was really hard. It was time of great challenge for me. This was something I never imagined myself doing. I appreciate people who choose that and think and plan ahead for that sort of thing. I never did that. And it's just a different, option. I also abandoned a career in academia, a fairly successful, I should say, at that point, career in academia. And that was really another toll that I had to think about and struggle with. And then also considering the fact that I was in such a privileged space to have a home, a family, a steady income, a partner, right, to help raise this child together, wake up at nights and change diapers, and really thinking about all kinds of experiences out there with parenthood at that time, the challenges that people, faced, single parents, trans parents, the ways in which social issues interfered with parenting, the complications of the pandemic, and so on. So that was my take. And, Dominica and I used to talk quite often on the phone and text messaging and all that modern technology allows at that time. And I shared this with her, and her response was,
Let's write about it.
let's write about it. And then also
Mhm.
you said something about artists, Dominica, that I would really love for you to repeat here, being first responders.
Oh, yes, that I've said that during the our live in-person book launch. I've developed this notion. I don't know how realistic it is, but it has worked for me, and I've seen it actually in practice in the real world, namely that creative artists have become more and more, or maybe they have always been, but now in our times of continuous crisis and catastrophes, like first responders for the soul of humanity. So creative artists as first responders for the soul of humanity. Fire people, firefighters, lawyers, no, not lawyers, forget lawyers, but doctors, nurses, are first responders for the physical bodies of people. But we always need, in all times of crisis, we need art and artists, and we need that emotional, we need the imaginary and the emotional and the products of the artistic and of the creative imagination to lift us up and to offer us different windows into reality and into grasping reality, and also as art as a strategy of healing and of survival. For those of us who've survived dictatorships and displacement, art has always been a strategy of survival and healing.
Roxana?
Yes.
Oh, did you want to add to that?
Oh, no, I was clapping. This is we're using,
Okay.
we're using Microsoft for work, and I'm so used to the emojis there.
What did you guys learn about the effects of COVID that you did not know before you started? What surprised you, if anything?
I guess that's a really great question, Colvin. I think that one of the things that we noticed is that maybe perhaps not the virus itself, but what the virus has caused really unearthed or revealed a lot of issues that we need to address right now. It's not that they didn't exist before or that we were completely oblivious to them, but the ways in which, the pandemic affected people unevenly, particularly depending on their positionality in the margins of our society, the structural barriers that they have had to encounter as communities, as they accessed different rights, privileges, and so on and so forth, racism, sexism, etc., right, homophobia, and what have you, ableism, all the terrible isms, right, that they weren't brought by the pandemic, but we just had perhaps more time to reflect on them than before, and to realize and to really be able to embrace the fact that, yes, I have been born into privilege. I have been exposed to that. I am the result of privilege, and now it's time for me to use that to do something about the inequities that I'm seeing out there.
Dominica?
Well, I don't want to actually take a lot more time because I'd like the participants to start reading, but I respond to some of this in the piece that I've written, Merciless Door and My Three Houses of the Apocalypse. And I think this question would be answered by the various contributors as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to.
Yeah, just one word perhaps before we give it over to the contributors to share their art with us. Calvin and Krina and Dominica, if we could, is just to say that we have really tried to bring together a diverse community of contributors from various perspectives. So you will see in this book not only racial and ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, but also gender diversity, diversity in terms of sexuality, diversity in terms of bodily ability, diversity in terms of career. We've got authors who have just begun their, artistic career. And I saw somebody here with us, one of our contributors briefly, and I'm not able to see her, Ellen Scherer, who works as a lawyer, but who wrote a beautiful play for this anthology. And I also have my little one here with me. He's obscured by my background. I apologize.
Oh, look at that. So nice to have all of these young boys.
Established writers I'm seeing right here. And of course, I'm not meaning to hierarchize in any way, but just randomly Ani, Lulu, and Alex, whom I've had the pleasure of going to school with. Great to see you guys here.
That's good. Want to go to the contributors?
Well, one thing is I would like to ask our cover artist Florinda Ruiz if she would like to say a couple of words about the cover, what it represents, where she took the picture, because I can't imagine a better, more appropriate photograph than this one. It translates so well as a book cover.
Yeah, thank you, Dominica. Hello, everybody. Hi, Annie. I guess I should say that when Dominica asked me about a photograph, I was very pleased because the first volume also has one of my photographs, and it was the first Immigrant Voices, and I mean the one that has a lady walking on the shore on the beach. And we thought that that one really represented the difficulties that immigrants and exiles go through, because the person I photographed in that first volume was an immigrant person in the United Arab Emirates. And this one, so I was very happy to contribute again. I didn't write anything this time. I wrote in the first one. But in this one, I chose, well, Dominica chose the picture. And I think it is a picture from the post office of Porto in Portugal, right? But what happens is when it was done, and not at the moment in which I took it, the reflections in each part of the windows show like a world encased. I guess it is a world that's what happened to us in the pandemic. We were all in our houses, locked down, and if you look at the picture, it represents that. And then it's almost like a box. It looks like a metal box once you keep it close. So I think it was a good choice for a pandemic theme.
Yeah.
And so, but that was not my choice. It was Dominica's choice. My choice was only to take the picture at a particular moment because I love the building. So
yeah, and on
thank
that,
you.
may I say that we are also together in Portugal, but on any theme that I would create a book, I would find among Florinda's gallery of photographs, a photograph to fit it. But that is, again, another beautiful expression of female collaboration, all women-led projects. And may I also say that if I keep saying women-led project, and our books are feminist books for a whole variety of reasons. However, we have males and artists and non-binary artists included. So it is, we have gender diversity as well in our collections.
Roxana, who goes first?
Okay, so just before, since this connects to the art orientation, or the book's intention to include visual art as well. Thank you, Florinda, for your wonderful work. I also encourage everybody to leave through the book. I think that the last chapter or selection in it, section, excuse me, in the book will also reveal some other works of art relevant to the context of this very problematic world and space that we have gone through, that became extremely visible during the pandemic years. Arguably, are we out of that? I don't know. But let us, without further ado, to give the microphone over to our wonderful contributors. And I'm going to try to call out your names as I can see you here on the screen and going through the table of contents as well. And I'm going to invite Lucia Kircher to share with us some of her work, please.
Thank you, Dominika and Roxana, for your work. It's been a delight to be included in this anthology. I'm going to read 2 poems. The first one is called Prayer for an Apricot Tree. The apricot tree deliberates whether to come back to life or not. A dormant tree shipped across the country in June. In Romanian, apricots are feminine, grapes masculine, and apples neuter. Gender is a matter of language. Every morning when I water the apricot tree, I check to see if a green leaf has broken. Abiding respect for trees that return. Even the roots were trimmed down bare. The chance journey of trees that travel from a nursery across the country. Does the tree learn the name of the person who planted it? Recognize my voice? The warning of things that burn. The floorboards in the living room. My chair, the windowsill. Are they still alive? Do they still remember? The triumph of an apricot tree that takes. I ordered it online and it has a 1-year warranty, but I would have to ship it back if it dies. And I don't see myself going to the post office with a pack of dead sticks. He's not dead and I'm not sending him back. I remember all the trees my father planted. He picked apricots, laid them out on the table in the good room, and saved them for us when we went home. The longest it's been since I didn't go home is 3 years. Last year, my daughter didn't want to go to Romania. This year is COVID and the whole world is learning how to pray. In 2 months, since we moved to this new house, we have planted 11 fruit trees, including 2 figs. Slowly, our garden is coming alive. Slowly, I learn to open the gifts passed down to me. Slowly, I learn to share the fruit. The second poem I'm going to read is called Blue Wrapping Paper, and it's dedicated to Vasile Diaconu, my uncle, who died of COVID in Romania in March of 2021. Blue wrapping paper. Sometimes I wrap an empty box in shiny blue paper. I remember the surprise. When I had nothing, I knew how to appreciate everything. Somebody had cut a branch off the tree and brought it inside. That Christmas, my uncle brought me candy and chocolate wrapped in royal blue paper. I try to remember what kind of chocolate it was. The gifts over the years. This March, he returned to his house late, too sick to make a fire. The ambulance came, carried him to 3 different hospitals that couldn't take him. Then the tests confirmed he had COVID. Finally, one hospital kept him. The family was not allowed to visit. His discharged phone. We stayed up late, praying, tethered to hope. My mother kept the lights on all night, called us and cried. On the wall, the picture he gave me some 20 years ago. The photographs he took bring back places forsaken, dreams renounced. I wrap an empty box in shiny blue paper, fold the edges back, smooth them out, try to remember what kind of chocolate it was, what kind of candy. I try to remember the last day I saw him, almost 3 years ago. Have I praised him enough? Have I told him how his gifts brightened our childhood? His countless forms of generosity. In order to remember hope, I look at the picture of wild hawthorns that he gave me. Sometimes I make a list of all the gifts he brought us over the years. Sometimes in a store, some shiny blue wrapping paper arrests me, and I remember the child's anticipation of joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Wonderful. Our next presenter presenter would be Monica Manolaki.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Roxana and Dominika, for putting together this anthology. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm going to read one of the two poems. It's called The Little Mermaids. It was inspired by my translation work. I was translating a book called Tending the Heart of Virtue, about how classic stories awaken a child's moral imagination. And at the same time, I was reading about teenage mothers in different countries, and this is the poem. Fancy living in a city inhabited just by teenage mothers, each on her own, without any of their family support. Imagine living there for a year, and during that time seeing all of the mothers and their babies cry for milk, tremble with cold, some of them starve to death, and not so much school time. You do have enough food, clothes, and toys for everyone. And there is only one of you. You are the architect, the builder, the doctor, the fire worker, the judge, the mayor, the police officer, the priest, the singer, the teacher, all of them at once. But they are helpless teenage mothers with one or more babies, thousands of teenage mothers cradling their newborns. You race frantically from young Madonna to young Madonna and never sleep, never stop to eat and drink, never go to the toilet. I am one of these mothers. Did I want to become one? In my grandparents' yard, the first apple to ripe was mine. When I was small, my parents brought me a red toy TV, a musical automaton with 3 dancing ballerinas inside, in blue tutus, with delicate overhead port de bras. Then they departed, taking planes to different destinations. I was counting the streets and the cars, the trees and the doves, hoping they might return, hoping to show them my homework. One summer holiday, I met a duende, half boy, half goat. His voice was changing, and I found it so hilarious. He brought me rivers and hills, the moon and the stars. I lost control, lost sight of myself, lost punctuation. To be a woman is freedom without choice, the nanny goat warned me. To be a woman is language without voice. While flocks of starlings were crossing my mind, I wished I could turn back time, but I never could. Birch trees grew inside me, and I was alone in the forest, nowhere to go, knowing nothing, with no one to help me. I am sitting here in this fictitious city, trying to answer why we all started so early, but I can hardly figure it out. Those newspaper pictures and those extensive reports rarely seem to capture the smiles of our babies. I may be that number in the government statistics, but I'm also a brave girl, life-loving and reliable. You'd better do something for your little mermaids. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. Next is Adela Sinclair.
Thank you, Roxana. Thank you, Dominica. Thank you, everyone, for your time, for your companionship throughout this anthology. I'm honored to be here. I will read one poem, and the title's pretty self-explanatory. Romanian Poet Watches Unsolved Mysteries, Episode 1. All it takes is an empty street. This is what I fear most. Not the ghosts, demons, nor angels I saw at the age of 23. They taught us in school everyone must do their jobs, the way entities overtook me. After all, even our teachers. Brainwashing can last a lifetime before the garbage cleaners will dispose of the trash. All it takes is an empty street. Were there any witnesses at the Belvedere Hotel in the middle of that night? His body dropped through the ceiling into the conference room. An accident? How was it geographically possible? His bones shattered. The courtyard was empty. I'm afraid of what they will find. Everyone who saw this shuts their mouths. I'm afraid stamina means staying where you are not wanted. The ones who are vindictive do it in ways you cannot imagine. All it takes is an empty street. I'm at the window looking out. Mother, you've told me one too many secrets. Your words are the window. You are the window. I shatter with understanding. So what if I smelled the blood first? We are all born bloodied. Isn't there enough liquid for the world to get wet? What once out must be birthed, sometimes bridled. Holding the sparrow in my hands, the words flush out. A mural of headlines, confessions, and verdicts. You've told me one too many secrets. The witnesses at the Belvedere all followed the same script. They lied with authority and conviction. Nobody saw his body fall nor be pushed off the roof of the hotel. The hole in the ceiling his body fell through, still there. Gravity was faster than him. He could have changed his mind. On the way down, falling deep under. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adela. Next is Anna Viprinska.
Thank you so much for including me in the anthology. It's really a pleasure to be among all of you here and to be in a writing space with all of you. I'm also going to be reading two poems. The first is from this anthology, was originally published in my chapbook, Spirit Clenched. And it's about having thin walls during the pandemic. Walls so thin, we disease the neighbors. Illness sieves as water through tea leaves. We bequeath fever and the fleshy longing of prayer. And the second poem is something I wrote very recently about looking back at the pandemic, remembering a moment during it, and thinking about how we covered our mouths and noses and our eyes had to do so much work. So it's about the heaviness of the eyes. It's called Eyelid. Each day, the exhausted return to openness, to peopled landscape, to pupilled spectacle. Seagulls pass, flinching, a paranoia of bird. What it takes to witness you, to unpeel from that other place. Once on the subway south to college, eyelid unveiled to witness woman reaching gloved hand to wipe tear from mask. In the moment it took to close from her, she surmised what I had witnessed, how to endure the shame, how to open without harming. Thank you.
Wonderful, Anna. I'm so happy to see you here also.
Annie Lulu now.
Yes.
Who was in France when she was writing this, and now she's in Baltimore.
Yes, I've just relocated to the US a month ago with my baby. So I hope it's going to let me read and not be too noisy, but if that's the case, I will just go on and try to ignore it. Maybe I'll choose one of the two poems of my contribution that is called Mambo. So it's a poem that is dedicated to Margaret Walker, and she was a great figure of the Harlem Renaissance movement. And Mambo is also the priestess or sacred feminine figure in the Haitian voodoo. And it's actually my father's first name. So, with a Genguba pig today, I bet a sweet necklace, bourbon stones instilled with the heavy sugar of a bloody mint jewel. The jewels that I craft are old rubs, smelling around the camshaft that has the knife faded. Bedding, memory of the mints, tying, rolling up to the central alveolus, hexagram navel. My body stretched by thousands of facets at the eye opening faded by generations. My sporulated pearls at the ankles of the tree. Ah, that I am the woman. Larynx of my land, splendor of the seedlings, justice, mother, aunt, artisan mambo with the quarter sparkles, saluting with my fingers the stars of the hip, song of songs nested in a shell of closed branches, tight, each time we found the aggravate, digging into the deposits of my throat's delta. Each time a trampling kukal crossed out my stride. Ah, that I am the woman, the perimeter of the swords, the belt of one more night, because tomorrow will be early, and the sky hasn't yet covered the farandole of constellations, which serve me as a yawn. My people's pillow oozes full flames. Okay, wapi moto, ikambo nayote, the stars nayote, the moon nayote, nothing nayote. Bandeke, where will you be burning, Benny? We had it with all the music around.
I love to hear the beautiful the languages, and also the poem is Annie's poems are all published bilingually. And one characteristic of our collections is also that we have many languages included. So there's a certain level of polyglossia, which is another form of diversity. Beautiful. Who's next, Roxana?
Thank you. Do we have Ellen Scherer with us?
Yeah, she was here for a short second, but then disappeared. So let's move
Okay,
to
then we're gonna move on to John Lipkin.
Joan. Yes.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here. I am so moved by the beauty and the diversity and the complexity of this collection. Just to hear this, to be in a circle of artistry is just magnificent. And I want to thank Dominika and Roxana for giving me this opportunity and for including me. And to elevate, the voices of immigrants, and also because the COVID is not over. The latest variant is spiking, and so I think this collection is especially relevant. So what I'm going to share with you today is a short story that also can be performed as a piece of dramatic literature. And my piece is about a non-binary queer immigrant from Bangladesh who is both grateful and ambivalent and struggling to have landed in St. Louis, supposedly for safety and opportunity, but finds their expectations really challenged in the middle of the pandemic. I'm going to hop around because I don't want to exceed my time. But the piece is called Surviving at the AOK Convenience Store next to the Shell station off the highway. I thought I was afraid in the old country to be a girl that looks like a boy and afraid to be found out. Then along comes the virus. But this virus for a queer Indian Muslim is a different thing here where I'm living now. Now, I thought when I came here, I had landed in heaven. Women driving, grocery stores with much food, blue jeans and t-shirts, blue jeans. Oh, and rap music. And anyone can go to school. Did you know that? Well, it costs money, but anyone can go, not just rich people and men. And I thought, this is a chance for a better life, not just the one that I was born to or the one that was chosen for me. No, maybe I can study, maybe not get married off and have babies and work in a stall like so many women in my village. Allahu Akbar. All things are possible through Allah, even this. So as I said, I'm going to hop around a little bit. I am hearing about this virus like everyone else. People say, stay home, stay inside. But I have to go to work, just like the bus drivers and the nurses and the janitors. We are the people who keep things going. And I asked my boss, can I work the third shift stocking so I will not be around so many people? Because people are coming in all day. Chips, tobacco, Coca-Cola, and tickets, lots and lots of lottery tickets. And usually I like to work the first shift because I can practice my English more, but now I want to be safer, less people. He says, no, my boss. He says, so few people are coming to work, he has to move me around wherever he needs me. Third, stocking cashier. I say, okay. Even though I will miss the classes I'm taking on my tablet, the one the church gave me. I mean, the church helped, but I still have to work. And to be an immigrant is to having things changing under your feet all the time. Right, so I'm gonna move ahead. People think you're stupid when you don't speak English well, but it's like a secret weapon, me not speaking English so well, because I am listening all the time and I am understanding in different ways. I understand about vaccines. In Bangladesh, my country, they are giving vaccines to children so they won't get polio. Even in the small villages like I am from, their babies to clinics to protect them. They tell everyone and celebrate. We have stopped the polio because we were doing the right thing. So I don't understand here why so many people hate the vaccine, why they won't get it. I want so much to get this vaccine. I can't wait for it to be here for people like me working at the AOK. And this guy, Dr. Fauci, is my hero. I can see kind. His voice is hoarse from talking so much. He is older than my grandfather, and yet he keeps going. What a man. People come into the store, they're not wearing the mask. Okay, and I'm going to just follow up with a little closing section here. Like one day at the store, several guys come in drunk. They're wearing red hats that say MAGA on them. I back away because they're not wearing the masks. The tall one gets mad, or maybe he's mad because we're out of toilet paper. I don't know. Then he puts a 6-pack of beer on the counter and says to me, "What are you looking at, boy? You know you Chinese are the ones that brought this." I tell him, I'm from Bangladesh in South Asia. It is not China. I don't say the Chinese didn't bring this, like Dr. Fauci explains, because he is standing very close and his face is red. His eyes are red. Everything is red. He says very loud, "Are you talking back to me, boy?" He's shaking her. I say, no, I am sorry. I wonder where my boss is with so much shouting, but he's in the back with the TV on doing inventory. He likes a show called The Price is Right. He wears a mask, but usually it's under his nose, and I don't correct him either. It is a strange thing. I'm supposed to be working on my English, but also not say things, not ask questions, not tell someone they were wrong. And my heart is beating so fast. If they don't pay, it will come out of my paycheck. I ask them if they need anything else. Cigarettes, lottery tickets, candy. You want a Snickers bar? We got Snickers. He smiles and slaps a $10 bill on the counter. "Keep the change, little buddy," he says, "since you are not from China, but lose that pussy mask." They leave, and I feel like crying, but I don't cry. No, I can't afford to cry. I have to stay strong for my uncle and my family. I have to finish my shift. And okay, I am angry too. Why do I always have to be nice? I think they're paying me to be nice. It's part of my job, but I think they expect me to be nice because I'm from somewhere else, an immigrant. Like I should be grateful to have them yell at me because I get to be here. No, thank you.
Great. It's here. An actress too, Joan. Who is next? Is
Thank
Catalina
you.
here?
We have Catalina is not on. I'm not seeing her on, although we've heard from her.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on and we're gonna invite Amy Le to read.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I am going to read an excerpt from Snow in Vietnam, which is an autofiction that is based on my family's escape from Vietnam after the fall of Saigon. And in this excerpt, we are at a refugee camp in Indonesia. Omo and I walked down the row of vendors in zone 2 of the camp, with Thuy Thien wanting to hold his hand, not mine. On either side, there are people selling various items in the stands. There is even a cafe under a blue tarp and a small restaurant nearby. Some of the strangers stare at us inquisitively, while others judgmentally. I am paranoid they will spread rumors that I am sleeping with this man to get special treatment. I pause to smell the coffee beans and close my eyes to enjoy the aroma. "Would you like some of coffee?" asks Omo. "No," I lie. "Sit, I want coffee." Omo orders 2 cups of coffee and warm tea for my daughter. "Why do you hate me so much?" "I no hate." I have been trying to make things right with you ever since we met, and I apologize for hitting your boatmates. I was following Abu's orders. I played music for you. Not for me, for you, Snow. I brought you sapodilla fruit from my mother's tree. I pulled favors to get your family into a barrack and got your application processed with priority. I am stunned and speechless. He is exasperated with me. He throws his hands in the air as if to say, I give up, and rubs his palms on his knees. Our drinks arrive. I take a sip of the hot coffee. If only every moment in life is like the first sip. Thank you. Omo relaxes his shoulders. You're welcome. I need to find my nephew. I will help. I wish to see my friends too. Do you know where they are? I ask. He takes out a pen and a small pad of paper from his shirt pocket. Write down their names and I will find them. I write down Hong Mai's and Tong's name, as well as Sung's and Minto's. I need more than their first names. I need surnames. There are thousands of people here with the same names. I have only first names. Maybe you check name of everyone here arrived in Galang on same day as me. Omo sighs. I will see what I can do. He abruptly whips his head around and addresses curtly the two women working the coffee stand. He says something to them in Indonesian and they stop speaking to each other. They're spreading rumors about us, he says. What they say? I am upset. They think we are lovers. He winks at me. I blush and divert my attention to Thuy Ting. We spend the extra 10 minutes enjoying our drinks and talking about my daughter's health and what heart surgery would mean for her. Omo escorts us back to the barrack via a longer route. He walks leisurely and is in no hurry to get out of the mud and rain. We arrive at the barrack at the same time as Tree. I lunge for my nephew to grab his ear. I'm furious he has been out all night and caused us to miss the opportunity to go to Sweden. Before I can yell at him, he collapses to the ground. Omo carries Tree into our room and places him on my mattress. He's burning up. I grab a towel and run down the stairs to the drum of fresh rainwater. With the towel soaked in cold water, I run back and apply it to Tree's face and neck. We need a doctor and medicine. Thuy Ting, Mai, Kai, and the twins, they stand by helplessly. There are none that will come to you, Omo says. If he had a minor illness and the strength to stand in line, he can visit the Red Cross tent for treatment. He cannot die. I am terrified. So many people get buried here, and their sight have no sign, no dignity for them. He will not die. Omo places a reassuring hand on mine. Tree is conscious and shivers. I'm cold. I wipe the moisture off his face. I do not know if the beads are from his sweat or the rain. Omo offers a diagnosis. It is possible he was bitten by a snake in the forest or ate something bad. Tree writhes in discomfort, and it reminds me of Tung when he had pinworms in his body. Try to keep him cool and as comfortable as possible. I have to report to work after my lunch break. Omo reluctantly leaves our side with a promise to return later with medicine for Tree's fever. I'll stop there.
This story is very powerful. I was very moved reading it. All of them are, each in different ways.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, so much.
Next is Sandra.
We have Sandra, and Sandra, if in the meanwhile you have decided that you are able to read yourself, I'm going to let you do that. But Sandra actually emailed me to say that she's not feeling very well and to ask me to read on her behalf. Sandra, can you give us a thumbs up? I know she's listening. If not, I will go ahead and read an excerpt from Sandra's story because I'd love for you to hear her voice through mine. So thank you for allowing me to do that, Sandra. The story is titled Year of the Probable Boom, 1953, Fear of Fallout. And it starts like this, and I'm going to let you wander and wanting to read more. We follow each other like young lemmings, past the giant dictionary and coat room that smells of fourth grade sweat, to an interior hallway next to the janitor's closet. We crouch on the floor, heads to knees, for the drill. Mrs. Foster reads from the instruction manual in a clipped allegretto. Now clasp your hands behind your head like this. Stay down until the all clear sounds. Tornado rehearsals emancipated us for nearly an hour each spring and fall, so useless that we never took them seriously. If it's your turn for a tornado wipeout, there is no getting out of it. But today, even the giggliest of us were solemn-faced, twisting to peer at classmates from beneath skinned elbows. This time, we were practicing to stay alive in the event of an atomic attack, which the school board decided would occur not only soon, but during school hours. The principal had issued a procedure for atomic bomb drills on the first Wednesday of each month. Orderly and precise, no deviation acceptable. Maximum survival rates would be achieved, if not nationwide, then at least at Jefferson Elementary. Protocol demanded that we be inspired to global service. Mr. Douglas stepped into our room during geography to assure us that Jeffersonians would lead the country back to normalcy and peaceful coexistence in a fragile but ever-expanding world, though he never explained how we might expect to be called on by the president, even our parents, to set things right. Don't look, reminds Mrs. Foster, explaining flash blindness. We must shield our eyes from the soundless puff of light that will grow to fill the sky. A glorious blossom of fire, she warns, like nothing we ever imagined, but for our country's sake and our own, we must not look. On the way home, I searched the clouds for suspicious shapes, squinting at the sun, daring it to explode. Thank you, Sandra.
We are sort of back there in the world.
Yeah. Great, wonderful. Next, we have Alexander Weinstein.
Hi, everyone. So good to be with you all, and congratulations to everyone and to this launch. I'm going to read just a short piece from my short story called Sanctuary. And just to set this up, I'll read the ending of it, but to set it up a little bit, it's quite a wild premise, a science fiction premise that in a virtual reality, which everyone is using at home, there begins to be these rips in things like Grand Theft Auto and our games, through which enormous mantis legs begin to enter our world, and grasshoppers and cicadas that seem sentient are entering into our virtual worlds. And there's a Trumpian president who is declaring war on them and urging, I think, worldwide for people to take up guns and to kind of go and start to fight these mantids and the grasshoppers. And there's other people who are trying to save them and create sanctuary sites within the kind of, I suppose the houses and the apartment buildings of Grand Theft Auto and places where they can hide them. And so this is from the end. And this section's called Intergalactic Songs. It was then that the creatures began to sing, the mantises whose legs our doctors had mended, lifted their wings and rubbed them together, and their melodies rose above the gunfire with the sound of crickets on a summer evening. Their music reverberated across the rooftops of our blasted landscapes and set meditation bowls ringing, filling our bodies with a soft vibration that tasted like honey to our eardrums. For a moment, we were awestruck by the beauty of their songs, which sounded almost like prayer. The citizens' brigades stopped marching, the dark-hearted gamers lowered their machine guns, and the tank operators idled in their war machines. Even those who at this late stage were still attempting to ignore the war and go shopping paused and listened. The creatures' stridulations echoed from our sanctuary sites, a wave of exquisite music that was also a homing beacon to their hiding places. We tried to silence the creatures as they sang, but they just looked at us with their compound eyes and continued their melodies. Their songs were beautiful. And for a moment, we felt like children drawn to the glow of fireflies. Then just as quickly as it had arisen, the spell was broken. The military trucks began to move again. The citizens began to march. The gunmen raised their controllers, and we finally understood our truth. Our visitors didn't need to tear us apart. We were doing that ourselves. And the distance they traveled was far less than the gulf between us and our own neighbors. Had we had more time, perhaps we could have learned their languages, translated their songs, understood the reasons they were here. But the tanks were already arriving. So we lifted our controllers and faced our fellow humans. Thank you.
Wow, I have to say, when I was reading through this, Alex was freaked out and enchanted and experienced so many different emotions. What a great piece. And I understand you have a film that's being done as well right now, right?
Yeah, it came out about a year ago called After Yang, and from one of my stories as well.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Next is our dear Alina.
Hey, can everyone hear me well? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to read a little bit from Forbidden, which was an essay about living in the writer's mind while raising children and running into things. So, it is May, the second month of pandemic, the book in progress, sidelined by childcare. Time coils, crackles, loosens. I am torn between restlessness and the loneliness of being trapped for months in a house with 3 children. My solution is simple: leave. Escape by packing the kids into the car and driving the back roads, our eyes peeled for meadows, space to roam outside the choir of sirens, arriving and departing the 3 hospitals near our house. 40 miles outside the city, a locked green metal gate appears, a road behind it winding towards hills. I tell the children, this is it. I park along the edge of a ditch. The son notices the sign says, no trespassing, but he misunderstands the invitation. There's nothing forbidding here, I assure him, as an ordinary yellow butterfly settles on the gate, 2 long metal beams shaped like wings on a hinge with a side padlock. It is inviting. It is idyllic. It is in the middle of nowhere, or what a map calls Chalkville. I have more to say, but I keep the other things to myself. I turn the word bucolic on my tongue, but do not offer it to the children. I keep bucolic quiet, preserving its connotations from their curiosity and conversation. I save this word for a poem I haven't written. The poem is always there, simmering beneath the surface. At this point, I care more about the word than the noise my 3 kids are making with buzzing sounds in the absence of bees. Look, I've done worse than what we're doing, I tell myself as we scale the gate, throw our legs over the top, drop our backpacks to the ground in different pitches of plunk. The sun lengthens our shadows. The sun sprawls across shrubs like a mother at the beach who silences the world by unimagining its existence. We walk past a paved driveway lined by trees, soaked in fresh chirping sounds, a tiny creek dawdling to our left. It's not even a real creek, the youngest announces. It is a toddler creek. She is the proud older cousin of a toddler. To the left, the son identifies a patch of cultivated daffodils, definitely planted, he confirms, not wild. Brown hair crawls over his shoulders like uncombed snakes. His hair is a separate wilderness. This place had an official gardener on staff at some point, he says. He can tell from the layout. The unreal creek toddles along with us for 10 minutes, rounding a curve, passing a monstrous patch of kudzu. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a steeple appears. The silhouette of a steeple appears in the vague forward, also known as the future, and it rubs against the past, rubs against that once when the middle daughter smelled a rotting rat beneath our porch. Now her eyes narrow. The middle daughter expresses concern about the vast kudzu kingdom, its hollows and hills, the shape and dull rolling, clearly haunted. She has a strange feeling about this place, which strikes me as hopeful, hope being the condition of having and holding strange feelings close to our hearts. When she lowers her voice to a whisper, I follow suit, stunned by how the change in volume changes the hue of the green things around us. It feels respectful. It feels appropriate to have an awe-filled tone when addressing a kudzu patch. You are confusing awe with foreboding, my son corrects. He is very articulate and a frisbee of meaningfulness at all odd moments. He is not the voice of reason, though he resembles this to himself. No, I insist. This is the church of wandering, and there is the steeple. Every stop along the way must be part of the passion, or else some place where a donkey paused to eat clover as a god thought his cross thoughts. Surely we are monks in this. I consider what it means to be a monk in an unforbidding place as we pass around a water bottle and start walking again. I resist the temptation to draw an analogy between shared bottled water and drinking from the same chalice, which might contain the blood of a man who is no longer alive. I maintain a relation to abstraction. We are monkish. Okay, sorry. A little bit more. Should I read one more section or stop there? Yeah, okay. We approach the ruins of a stone chapel with a hole carved by a wrecking ball in the front. Something massive must have been removed, I say. The son says it was the massive old bell. A bell tower with an open wound. The urge to write slams into me like a train. The kids want to keep going. One of them has a caterpillar on her shoe. But we are monks, I say, and this is our discipline to bring all possible attention to bear on that gape mouth wound. Life is a form of poetry, and poetry is a form of discipline, namely the focus and attention of someone who wants to experience rapture. The methodology is simple. We see what lies before us, and we look at it with the lover's insatiable eyes, the gaze that can't touch or taste in moderation. The son makes disgusted noises. I tell them to go ahead and ramble without me. A purple flower lifts her anonymous face from a crack in the pavement. There is this breeze, I think, which is not quite a wind. What is mom doing? The son groans. She is staring at that hole with all her might, the youngest declares. Oh, look at how that vine is climbing through the window's eyeball, the middle daughter warns. This place is for sure haunted by horrible things that happen to kids. It's like a tinfoil pinwheel. Her simile disarms me. A good simile is a light that reveals without sterilizing the room for surgery. It is visible. It offers us a tactile picture. It's plastic tinfoil physicality embodying a sort of fear, but not the abstraction. The cheap kitsch of its connotations cling to what should be fun. And isn't it funny how so much of what should be fun in childhood is actually terrifying? I want to come back to the hole in the wall or the wound in the bell tower, specifically the location of this wound over the larynx of the bell tower's throat. Is a bell tower without a bell still a bell tower? When the son expresses hunger, I groan. The burden of childcare, entirely mine during pandemic. A childless female friend celebrates the extra time at home. I'm going to finish my book, she announces. My husband has taken over my study to work from home. I am somewhere between a steeple and a simile, thinking about mothering and losing your voice in winter, and whether bells are like children who have disappeared behind the tall grass growing over the tennis courts. Whether children are closer to bells than missing balls. Only when faced with the weed-smothered tennis courts do I begin to wonder where we are. Why the tennis court nets are doused in vines. Why my children are hesitant. And I think about James Longenbach, who said a poem's power comes from its ability to resist its conclusions while being pulled toward them. I think about what it means to be haunted or remembered, and why the middle child is the one who keeps mentioning it. So much hinges on how we carve implication or what we want from the landscape. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Alina. Great. And, we invite everybody to discover what the place is that the four are visiting. Great. I think that our
Yeah, Narayanan, AKA
yes.
Enes Bala.
Hi, everyone. So sorry, I forgot about mute. My name is Sandhya Narayanan, but I write creatively under the name NS Bala. Thank you so much, Dominika and Roxana, for including me in this wonderful volume. And thank you to everyone who has shared before me. It has been really nice to hear your work and just to be in this space as well. And I hope we could also, I feel like it's appropriate. We're doing something similar that we did in the pandemic, and it makes us wonder how much of a post-pandemic world we live in. So I hope one day we can be together in person as well. I wrote a piece about the pain of separation and longing that came while being in quarantine during the pandemic. And the selection that I'm going to read is about realizing it's not just the pain that comes from longing to be with people that you love, but also, versions of yourself and even hopes that you may have had at one point. So there are some kinds of reunifications that are still too painful to wade through. Instead of feeling the respite that was hoped for, more sorrow and emotional hopelessness is revealed. You do not get the respite and catharsis of returning to how things once were. Instead, you are left feeling stupid, naive, arrogant, or immature to think that there ever could be that happy reunion and fulfillment to your separation and longing. Instead, you realize how that feeling, person, and situation that you dramatized and recreated in your mind for so long was simply a foolish dream to help you forget not only the pain you were feeling in the moment, but also the tragic and traumatic events that you wish to escape. I remember the moment in the pandemic when this realization hit me the most and hardest. It was December of 2020, and I was able to spend almost a month with my mother, the first time that I was able to see her and pass time with her since the pandemic first started. I had hoped for it to be the cathartic release of reunification that I had long dreamt of. I could not have been more wrong. Naturally, when you put two South Asian women in a space together, intensity will automatically burst forth and fill the room with that emotional energy and tension. In that month, I saw the ways that my mother's spirit and zest for life had further diminished. It was an already fading light, one that had taken years of emotional abuse and underappreciation from friends and family. I remember being in my late teens and beginning to see her go through these depressive episodes, only to see them increase as the years went on. Yet in her own way, she rejected these lows, continuing to push herself to hold things together for my brother, father, and others in our family. That month revealed another new low, where she barely kept herself together for the sake of my visit home. But I could tell that the months of quarantining, of being isolated and being alienated and separated away from people she once held close had really hit her. She started to recall bad memories, experiences of emotional and verbal abuse from our family that she hid from us, never sharing them but suffering in silence. She was always one of the more progressive members of my family, a feminist even though she never had called herself by that term. But human beings are contradictions, and my mother's perhaps one of the most puzzling ones that ever walked this earth, convincing herself to stay in an emotionally hurtful marriage for the sake of maintaining her values and upholding the primacy of duty that comes with being a South Asian wife and mother. Those were moments of darkness that accompanies the trying winters of the Northeast, where daylight is as scarce a resource as diversity in Vermont. While I was worried about her, I partially attributed her new lows to the weather, which can make even the most ardent optimist question the meaning of their own existence. Things will turn around. They will be better in the future. I feel foolish even now as I hear this hollow promise for a brighter, more optimistic world to come. But how could I not feel a little ray of hope? Why should I not have allowed myself the pleasure of letting my guard down? There were things that I thought were worth celebrating in spite of the horrors that continue to rage in the world outside us. I somehow managed to get a stable job that was the start to a new career and new life for myself. I was starting to make a life for myself as an independent adult. Perhaps it was my stupidity or maybe my selfishness, but I thought it was time to finally celebrate myself and invite others to do so with me after so many years of sidelining my own accomplishments for the needs, priorities, and achievements of others. My mother quickly shattered that narrative, finding the crack of narcissistic folly in the mirror that reflected these visions and swiftly inflicting the precise blow to see it all crumble away. Presenting my mother with these misplaced hopes revived a constant struggle between us. I would present my happiness and excitement for things happening in my life, things that I should be happy and proud about. In response, I receive a stoic, yes, that is fine. A tearful, emotional argument ensues about why she can't be happy or excited. Sadness turns into anger and resentment, asking her why all her responses to my happiness is some version of, oh, okay, well, good for you. At some point in these arguments, she breaks down, reminding me of the emptiness of her life, the constant hurt she endures, and how emotionally trapped she feels. It is a gaslighting that I constantly put up with out of love for my mother, and the very real acceptance of the ways that she has been worn down over her life. Yet today I resolved to not concede to my mother, to not apologize to her for being selfish and not considering her needs. Mentally, I am prepared to counter these well-worn arguments by saying something along the lines of, but this time it is really different. Why can't you accept that? It was different, but not because I felt that for once we should feel happy and hopeful. Instead, the difference came in how my mother broke down. She held back tears, letting only one escape down her cheek. Slowly and almost inaudibly, she whispered, because I have nothing left in me to give. I know that my mother was trying to project strength. Instead, she looked lower, sadder, and more emotionally fractured. She looked like a broken vase that was hastily glued back together. The outer shape resembled its original form, but you could tell that it was barely being held together by the cheap glue used to connect its dismembered parts, its compositional integrity too compromised to withstand even the slightest touch. At that moment, she was a whole woman who was moments away from crumbling, dispersing fragments of herself across the floor. That's all I have for today. Thank you for listening.
And Sandy and I spent a lot of time together during the pandemic, having our offices next to one another, and often getting drunk after work together. Put it out there. You know, alcohol consumption really increased during the pandemic. So we contributed to that statistics very joyfully.
And sustained the industry.
So what Roxana, how do you want to?
I think that this is the community of contributors that were able to join us for this launch today. So Dominika, how would you like to close this up? Would you like to go first and then me after, or should I go first?
You go first.
Okay, great. So very quickly, I will share with you one of my short poems here. We haven't talked about food, so I'm gonna speak specifically or directly. I've heard references to hunger, of course. So my poem was written as a result of a challenge for an art exhibit, street art exhibit in Oklahoma, and it's called Ode to Hunger. This poem is an appetizer, as savory on the tongue as zakuska, everything I can swallow. This poem is like watermelon and feta, brightened by a single sprig of mint from a garden in my old country, where everything kept growing despite the personal distance, like in a bed where sleep is sweating miracles. I want to taste that which fits on my plate, what is sweet, what is risen, my baby's milk sour breath, what my body has enough of. But not everyone is made of the same hunger. Here in Oklahoma, my kitchen bulbs blister with light despite the ice storm. I stay put. I hunger for the round world across the pandemic. Thank you.
Beautiful, Roxana. And her other poem in the collection won a prize also. And we'll close with a couple of paragraphs from my piece titled Merciless Door and My Three Houses of the Apocalypse. For those of you who don't know the word door, we're not Romanian, you know, it's our most precious word. We might as well just speak with door. We might as well just make it the only word that we communicate with. It defines all of us from Romania. It expresses just about everything, but mostly this some kind of an unbearable, deep longing, yearning for everything, for what we've lost, for what we've never had, for what we wanted and never had. It's a gash in the soul. Much like Irina in Chekhov's Three Sisters, for the quarter of a century, I had lived in the small Virginia town where I moved from Chicago for my university job. I have relentlessly dreamed of returning to the vibrancy and roar of the big city, Chicago, New York, Paris. All right, Moscow, not so much. As an East European who grew up under the ominous shadow of the Soviet Union, in the end, it took a planetary disaster to make me fully embrace my surroundings and appreciate their beauty and plenitude in that baleful spring when the redbuds, dogwoods, lilac trees, and hyacinth flowers were showing off their dazzling colors and scents, indifferent to our human miseries. As I watched my son, who a month earlier had returned from New York jobless with lost film projects, assiduously plant a prolific garden in our backyard, or as I walked in the same yard, ridiculously mimicking swim moves in a desperate yearning for my lifelong love affair with water athletics, or better yet, as I worked on a new writing project titled Love Letters from the Dead, because those catastrophic times opened up all the scarred wounds of my youth in a dictatorship and of my early immigrant years, I wanted to say to Irina, or really to my own self, stay put, sister. The countryside is exactly where you should be right now. You can always Zoom with the city people. As I walked the empty streets of the small town situated in a crook of the Appalachian Mountains, an equally ferocious sense of combined doom and joy washed over me, combination which wildly confused and decentered me, while also facilitating a new window into the meanings of home, belonging, our relationship to the earth and each other. In a word, a revelation. By the word, the etymology of apocalypse is to reveal, revelation. The following hybridic pieces of dramatic prose emerged precisely from these revelations and visions. The Three Houses of the Apocalypse. In a persistent fantasy of mine, I have a house in each of the three countries I am forever tied to. The one I was born and grew up in, cradled in the curl of the Carpathian Mountains, washed by the waters of the Black Sea, irrevocably and deliciously chaotic, incorrigibly sentimental, and tormented by messy histories and ferocious ambitions to be like some other, better countries in the West. I come from the country of this special word, pronounced like a breathless exhalation, like a candid scream, dor. I shall call this country number 1. Then there is the colossal country made of many countries where I settled as a political refugee 3.5 decades ago and where I made my life, the country whose self-assurance rises to the high heavens and where millions still want to come and live despite the rise of fascism, the barbed wire at its borders, the shameless chasm between the rich and the poor. This would be country number 2. And then there is the country of my childhood favorite books, of creamy language, fluffy pastries, lyrical love songs, the country whose culture and literature I have insatiably devoured my entire life. You know, the country of the Eiffel Tower and the juicy kiss that carries its name. And for the sake of correct mathematics, this will be referred to as country number 3. And there is one paragraph, one section about each one of these countries and how I relate to each of them, and ultimately, where is my home?
Thank you. Dominika, thank you so much. And I just wanted to mention that Dominika's memorialistic work also was recently prized.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing that.
The Dream in a Suitcase, yes.
The Dream in a Suitcase, yes.
All right, here we are. This has been
Yes.
successful.
Thank you so very much.
Before,
all of
I'm sorry,
you.
Karina, before we say thank you to everyone and we wrap this up, we just, Dominica and I wanted to make sure that we, have this on recording. The book is filled with amazing contributors, some of whom are not able to be here to share their work. So I encourage everybody to pick up their own copy. And Karina has shared in the chat the link to this book, correct?
Yes.
You.
Yes, thank you so very much, everyone. This has been so amazing. It feels like the pandemic amplifies the immigrant experience, and the immigrant experience amplifies the pandemic experience. So I look forward to reading a lot more from the book. Thank you so much, everyone, for your great work, for your sensibility, and for coming to the rescue of our souls through through the pandemic and through all that we have lived. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for hosting this from Archer. It's very lovely to be doing events under the very necessary auspices of your organization, and also some good news with regards to the collection, that you already received news from the editor that the book is selling very well. So let's take it that way. Tell people, I, at this point in my academic career, I have to say I have acquired a certain productive degree of shamelessness. Namely, I do teach my own books when the topic is appropriate, when it's appropriate for the themes and the topic. So if you're in the academia and it fits, order it. In other words, publicize it, promote it as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Yes, maybe to our libraries at the university as well.
Yes, order it, yes.
Yeah, and you should be able to see here on the screen just a glimpse of the website. Just wanted to say a big thank you to the publishers, Solis Press. They produce really beautiful books. Look them up, look through whatever other amazing books they produced. Read about ours, buy it. If you're in Europe, you can access Amazon UK. If you're in the US or continental North America, I suppose you can purchase it through Amazon USA. And thank you very, very much, everybody. One more time, I just want to say thank you, Dominica, for your wonderful collaboration. You're just so full of energy, and I admire you so deeply. Thank you for trusting me to be your partner. And thank you to all the contributors for trusting us to bring this book to life. It has been challenging, but we did it. And we produced a really beautiful, beautiful artifact. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Roxana. Likewise, I'm in your fan club. Well,
Right.
great. Parting is such sweet sorrow. It's hard to part now.